Are there rent grant programs that you're eligible for right now, even before members of Congress come back in session to discuss a second stimulus check? Hey everybody, this is LALATE with a second stimulus check and stimulus package update today. This one's about rental assistance, with more details about rental assistance whether you are a renter or what we call mortgage assistance if you're a property owner. I want to go over the breakdowns of it because there's a lot of great news about what's in the pipeline coming for you, whether you're a renter, apartment building owner, or homeowner, to ensure you're not displaced because of the pandemic. I'm here to help you, inspire you, and keep you positive and motivated, and help you learn more. First, yesterday we detailed Dallas and Houston, major cities in Texas that have grant programs. A lot of viewers have been helping one another overnight in the private portal, talking about other programs that help. I want you to know that these grants and these loan programs exist all throughout the country. Some of them exist on a geographical location like Houston or Dallas, but some of them exist on a manner of faith and worship. A lot of faith-based organizations have grant money for you if you're having problems making rent, if you're having problems making utilities, if you're having problems with your mortgage forbearance. The HEROES Act, which is currently in the Senate from the House, written by Democrats, has two separate parts in it, one for the renters and one for the landlords. And some people sometimes say I talk so much about the renters but never about the landlords. I talk about both, but let me talk more about both right now. So the landlords would get $75 billion in assistance. And when I say landlords, I also mean homeowners, landlords, $75 billion, and then $100 billion for renters assistance. So it's about 50-50, which is great news. This is grant. This is free money. It's free money. It's for you if you can't make rent during the pandemic. This is rent that would go from you to wherever it needs to go. So in the case of renter, it would go from the renter to the landlord. In the case of the property owner, it would go from the property owner who has a mortgage to the bank. I think I've gotten a few questions, but let me answer this question as well if you're thinking about the same. If you own your home but you don't have a mortgage, will you get a grant as well? Not clear. That has not seemed to be the priorities for members of Congress, because most of the bills have talked about mortgage assistance for trying to prevent foreclosures. So they haven't talked about that part. But on the other hand, they've also talked about utilities assistance. So maybe you might get it for utilities, but if you own a property but don't have a mortgage, maybe you'll get benefits for utilities, but you won't get it for anything else. Really quite interesting. What I'll also touch on is the following. When the pandemic first hit, this channel, LALATE, the website before this channel launched, was deeply critical of counties across California that said, hey, we aren't going to allow tenants to be evicted. But in the same regard, they said, you know what? Property taxes are still due. So they urged property owners to pay property taxes and said, if you don't, we're going to penalize you and fine you. But in the same regard, they said the tenants didn't have to pay the rent. It didn't seem fair. I don't know what the Democrats and the Republicans are going to do about property taxes going forward. But at least we have the grant money being proposed. This is free money for the tenant, free money for the landlord, free money to ensure that people are not displaced. Next, we have the moratoriums. There are moratoriums in place that are proposed as to mortgages and rent. Some of the viewers have asked me in the comments, what's a moratorium? So let me put it in simple words. It means you don't have to pay it right now if you can't. It doesn't mean you are forgiven. It doesn't mean you never have to pay it. You won't be evicted currently. That's what the moratorium means. It's generally phrased as rent eviction moratorium. So it means you can't get evicted. You can't get evicted if you can't make rent. So this is great news. So the HEROES Act, which is currently in the Senate from the House, proposes a moratorium on a federal level that prevents evictions. Now, there is good news and there's bad news. And as you know, I never sugarcoat anything. First, let me give you the bad news. Because, no one wants to wait around for the bad news. The bad news is this timing issue. I am deeply worried for viewers of this channel about the timing. The bill will not likely get approved, if it is approved, until August 8th. A lot of you could lose your place of dwelling by that time, because members of Congress are on vacation. I mean, how dare them go on vacation and you're about to be thrown on the street, but they have done that. So, the bill might not get passed soon enough. That's the first situation. That's the bad news. Here's the good news. The good news, and this is sort of a strange way to get to good news, but the good news is that governors are likely to extend eviction moratoriums because they're now announcing lockdowns. How does this work? Well, in California, as an example, when the first lockdown was issued in March by Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, he immediately, upon announcing it, said, I'm going to do two other things. I'm not going to allow evictions, and I'm not going to allow utility companies to turn off utilities if people can't pay their gas, water, or heat, and I'm not going to allow them to charge late fees and things like that. That was a great immediate reaction. The good news about that is that, sadly, minutes ago, Gavin Newsom issued another lockdown. He said California is going back on a lockdown. For 30 counties in the state of California, ostensibly went back to where they were in March, with the exception of outdoor dining, which is still existing for reasons that are not particularly clear. So those 30 counties are shutting down, offices, fitness centers, places of worship, hair salons, and malls. All malls in those 30 counties, which include LA County, shut down. So if you're being shut down, generally governors also in the same breath say, hey, we're going to issue a moratorium. That's generally how they do it. They don't always do it. So that's the rub. Currently, there is about only 50% of the states of this country that have rent eviction moratoriums in place. That means that the other 50% is run amok with eviction cases. Now, here's the other rub about that. You can't have eviction cases if courts are closed. So a lot of courts could be heading to get back closed if lockdowns are issued. It's sort of like a double-sided coin. Ultimately, what's important to understand is the number of evictions that's running up, and it's running up very quickly. During the Great Recession of the 1990s, there was about 5 to 10 million eviction cases in a period of several years. There's currently 20 to 30 something million eviction cases newly filed in the last few weeks. So the issue about rent assistance and moratoriums is so important and so needed, and it's important for you to know whether or not your county, state, or city is under eviction moratorium or what the situation is. It's changing daily. It's literally changing daily. So what you need to know is that some governors do it on a statewide basis. For example, in Delaware, the entire state's on lockdown. In other states, they do it on a city-by-city basis. So some cities may be on eviction moratorium, some may not. And then finally, some states don't have anything, and so they can freely start evicting people. You need to be informed and educated. The way you do it is you go on to Google, type in the name of your state, type in eviction moratorium, and you will see the result that ultimately says, hey, is my state under eviction moratorium? A lot of the viewers asked me overnight how these vouchers would work and would they conflict with anything? No. So the great thing is that rent assistance under the HEROES Act does not conflict with PPP. It does not conflict with PUA. It does not conflict with second stimulus check. It does not conflict with EIDL. It is additional money. It is additional money on top of a second stimulus check. It is part of the second stimulus package, but it's in addition to everything else. If you have questions about your situation, drop them in the comments below. I want to try to answer them tomorrow in tomorrow's Accordion. A lot of changing, moving parts. My important concern for my viewers of this channel is to stay positive, motivated, and inspired, and educated. No one likes talking about renter's assistance. It's a scary subject. It's a scary subject because people being thrown on the street is not a happy thing to discuss. But if we discuss and get ourselves informed and educated and knowledgeable about what's happening, ultimately, it could turn very, very positive very, very quickly. As it did in the case of one viewer of this channel, who I detailed 2 days ago, Kevin. He knew he was going to get displaced. He knew he was in big trouble. He knew he was not making rent. And so what he did was he found out about a grant program in his local jurisdiction. Every county has these strange grant programs. They appear on the local news one time and they're just gone. And he detailed how much a run there was on the program. 10,000 applications within 24 hours. So if you need grant money for your rent, look it up. Look up your city right away. It may be out there, as another bug flies in my face. It may be out there, and it might be ready for you to grab. As always, stay at LA for more.